And we're live. You are tuned in to the Vintage House Show, normally broadcast on WNUR FM 89.3. But what is normal these days? Right? We are really getting in the normalcy with this virtual edition of the Vintage House Show. It's your main man, Mega. I'm here with Lauren Lowry, and we've got newness, freshness for you for this last show of 2020. We want to give 2020 the big foot. Get it out of here. Slap it around.
That is for sure.
Out of our minds and heartstrings. Really, we want to take a moment. Of course, the Vintage House Show is brought to you empowered by the Modern Dance Music Research and Archiving Foundation. It's a premier on-air show and podcast dedicated to illuminating and preserving the lives, music, careers, and history of house music pioneers. It's the only repository also in the United States dedicated solely to the study, preservation, celebration of the genres of house and dance music. And our mission is to preserve these memories and memorabilia that support the sustainability of this culture that we know and love as house music. And to do that, we need to ensure that we're passing it on to creating a succession plan. And we'll get into why that's so important as we go into 2021. But we must take a moment right now to express our deep condolences and send our love and light to our co-host, Lori Branch. Lori Branch lost her father after an illness. Today, he transitioned, and we wanted to ensure that the love and light and comfort are sent to Lori from all those who know her and love her from this show and all that she does to help preserve house music as a DJ, as a co-host of the show, as a documentarian, and all that she does. She is loved, and we embrace her during this time. Lauren?
Yeah, this is, certainly a tough time for Lori. She's, her parents are in their 90s and they've been flourishing for a long time. We all felt blessed to have them around as long as they have been. Her mom's in great condition. I went to, her mother taught me in 6th grade at Mount Vernon School in Chicago on the South Side. And she was one of the only teachers that had her students at her house. So I was in her house with her family, and she's got a lot of brothers and sisters. I was, hanging out with all of them in the Washington Heights area of Chicago. And I felt like they were all family, just the nicest, kindest family. And I know this is a blow to the Branch family, which is a rich family, rich history in Chicago. And we're just praying, my heart goes out to the family and to Lori and Carl and Lana and the other siblings whose names I don't know. We all went to Lindblom with her 2 younger brother and sister, went to Mount Vernon School with her brother and sister. I mean, just so many ways we had, dialogued with both her mom and her father. And this is a big loss to Lori, and we will just do anything that we can to make sure that she is held up and that she holds up in this transition time for her and her family. 2020 has been rough for a lot of families, for sure, for many different reasons. And thank God this is, 2020 is almost over, and we're going to bring it in with the spotlight. We're going to bring it in with something new.
So we're here tonight to not only continue the mission of Vintage House, but to introduce a new segment that will follow our great conversations, our narratives about the pioneers in the business of house music. This segment will be called the Vintage House Spotlight. And here to talk more about the Vintage House Spotlight, introduce one of the co-hosts again. Back to you, Lauren.
Hey guys, let me tell you, one of the things we really miss about not being in studio is the fact that, there's no live spinning. We're not doing a lot of that now. Certainly on our Facebook Live platform, it's become more and more difficult to have, sort of music spun, heard nicely, have it not be interrupted by Warner Brothers and others, et cetera, that kind of thing. We're just not doing a lot of that anymore. And, this is something, we're just going to bring in something new. Where we are introducing live music again, but there's a little bit of a twist. What we want to do is bring on some folks who may not be the pioneers. Our goal on Vintage House is to bring light to the pioneers of house music and their stories. But what we hadn't done, after long conversations of talking about others and their ability to mentor, is we hadn't been mentoring ourselves. So what we've done is we brought on a great team of young people who are going to bring on both mature DJs and new DJs to spin and just show us what they have, give them the light that they should have using the audience that the Vintage House Show already has. Kevin being a pioneer, he has contacts with all of the producers, promoters, business people in house music. Lori being a pioneer, she's always dialoguing or in dialogue, certainly on the show, with all of the major DJs across the country. They're all looking at the Vintage House Show. And what a great platform to have, so that right after that show, all those pioneers and all those promoters can come and see some new life in dance music and some life that's already been around, but now, you're almost challenging them a little bit. Like what you got, what they got, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's some synergies with all of these different, groups. And I think, I'm almost like, this is going to be what we consider sort of the new age DJ battle. We're going to have the young and the old come together, see what they got, and let everyone sort of make the call on, who's the better DJ. And then what we're going to do is we're also going to, whoever wins every month, we're going to come up with some kind of great challenge where they can either spend some time with their mentor, spend an hour with Lori Branch, spend an hour with Kevin McFall. We're going to just come up with ways that we can sort of, again, bring more light and attention to some people who need to be put into the spotlight so they can get some of the gigs and some of the other things. Although some of these our people already got gigs. Some of our folks, they doing some good stuff, Mr. John Young. But first, I'm going to introduce one of the co-hosts to the show and our media manager at the Dance Music Foundation and the Vintage House Show, Justin Alphonse. It says Justin Alexander. What's your DJ name? What we call you a DJ name? What we gonna call you, Justin?
DJ name. I can't spin. Hi everybody. Nice to meet
Hey,
everybody, all our house heads and everything. I think that this is a great opportunity. What sparked all of this, and at least my mindset being one of what you guys call one of the young folks. On one of the shows, when everybody was talking about like passing the baton, one of our previous shows that we just recently had, I think I was one of the only young people in there that was able to like comment and give some insight from like my perspective or our age's perspective. And I remember one of the guests, I'm not sure if it was Terry Hunter, one of the guests was talking about how he was at some event and it was a bunch of young people, probably my age or whatnot. And he heard a famous like house beat pretty much. And that house beat was, I forgot which song it was, but I know the song that was playing was Fade by Kanye West. And that song samples like one of the greatest, like most recognized like house music songs out there. And that the guest had said like he was so shocked that all these young people were like just so turned up and just like going crazy when the beat dropped and everything. He was like, wow, they're listening to this house song and they love it like that. And then as the song played out, you realize it wasn't the house song, it was just a sample, and it was Kanye West's Fade. He was like, wow, like crazy, because like he wouldn't have recognized it. And what I kind of realized is that a lot of the artists today don't pay enough credit and homage to like where they get these samples from and everything. But it is what kind of created some of the greatest hits that our generation have today, and people just don't know that because the artists aren't getting the credit where it's due. So I think this is important. I guess an important process in bridging that gap between like the legends who paved that path, and some of the DJs today who are willing to, like, you know, kind of who are walking that path and willing to learn more, so that way they can keep knowledge and keep paying homage to like the foundation that was set for them, pretty much. So yeah, it's good to have some insight.
So, you know, Justin's clearly his insight was, I think, really important to me. And I feel like I always like to use the Chance the Rapper example. Chance the Rapper was mentored by Kanye West and some of the other Chicago heads in hip hop. And he gives love to those people. He shines the light back onto the pioneers so that it's a chance for everyone to flourish. So I feel like the more some of the pioneers mentor, the more their light shines. So we're going to try to help with shining that light and bringing more love to house music and to dance music, and certainly more love to Chicago and the DJs that really brought the music to life. So
who else do we have on the show to help us do that?
Well,
Lori, I didn't properly introduce all of our guests.
We did not, but now here we know what the show is. We know what the spotlight is. One of our first two mature guests, mature DJs. I'm trying to come up still with the right. We'll come up with it today. Maybe somebody.
These
will
are
help us
vets.
Vintage. The Cougar DJs.
Oh, Cougars! Yes, I like that. As the girl on the show, I like the Cougar. So here's some guys who've been spinning for years, and they'll tell us a little bit about their story. They're still doing things. I know some of these cats are spinning across the globe, certainly spinning across the United States. Carlos Myers, aka DJ Loso, and DJ John Young. DJ John Young from the west side of Chicago is literally spinning all over town.
West side?
And love for the west side. We give love to the west side. We don't give as much love to the west side as we should. You know that. We all know that. But we love the west side. Great house history out of the west side and north side that we don't give as much love to. But these are two guys who are doing their thing, still spinning every week, spinning every month, sending their sets out into the world. And, I think it's a good opportunity for us to know more about them, and, again, bring more attention to the work they're already doing, and maybe to maybe find more work in house music. I'm going to start with DJ John Young, who I've known for quite some time, but I don't know everything about his story. I learned more about John Young's story at an event that the Chicago Black History Culture Map had on the west side of Chicago.
Wait. I got to interrupt you. John Young has been on the show at least once, if not 2 or 3 times, Lauren.
I missed him when he was there.
Right.
I missed him when he was
in
there.
The studio.
I know. I missed him, but I've known him for a long time, but I didn't know his entire story literally until September 2019. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at some flyers. His boys, McSwain, Rick Lenore, these super legends. I mean, when I say super legends, they're super legends, super West Side legends. They come in with flyers with John Young's name on it. I'm like, what's John Young's name doing on this flyer? Where's John Young? I know John Young's spinning, but I did not know John Young was back in the day, right, with the house heads, with the flow, with the crews. And I was like, wow. And he's doing great things. You're doing great things. John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? How'd you get involved in the house music scene?
Well, from the west side of Chicago, grew up around Laramie and Madison, Moore Park, 60644 is the area code. Went to Prospect High School, which is Northwest Side. Went to Columbia College, which is downtown.
Love for Chicago.
Started off around 85, 86, actually kind of self-taught myself to DJ. I had one of those, my parents had one of those boom boxes where it's like the radio and the turntable and the 8-track all connected.
Yes.
So I bought another turntable and I made pause mixes. So I didn't have a mixer, didn't have money to buy a mixer. So I made pause mixes. So pause mixes basically are, you know, you playing the record, you stop it at a certain point, you gather your other record to make the blends flow with each other. And once you have that, you let the pause button up and you let them mix together. And you stop it and you get another record and you start that whole process. So a 30-minute tape could take 3 hours doing. So I was kind of self-taught doing that. Hooked up with some guys, one of the also West Side legend, Zoom and Zach, Slick Ed, DJ Les. I grew up in the back, right across the alley from me was Rick Lenore. So Rick Lenore, grew up with Kevin McSwain, DJ Ray Jones, DJ Craig Hill, all pioneers in this game. Started DJing in the club before 21. They used to sneak me in this club on Madison Street called the Chateau. So when the owner used to come around, I had to hide underneath the DJ booth so I wouldn't get thrown out. So that was Zoom and Zach and Slick Ed. Also Gary Baxter, also he recently passed, but Gary Baxter, the voice of the Adonis No Way Back, was also a pioneer and very good friend of mine. So kind of started from there, hooked up with Ray Jones and Rick Lenore, Kevin McSwain. They had an organization called Flight One, which was a group of DJs, a group of promoters, where we promoted parties, primarily high school parties on the west side, north side of Chicago, Prosser, Austin, Orr, Crane, Providence, St. Mel. We used to do resurrection parties, the legendary Resurrection, also Da Vinci Manor, the Rose, the Factory, just a whole bunch of places that we used to DJ at every week, throwing parties. So that's why I kind of started 80, 86, 87 and kind of went from there.
I gotta jump in and tell my John Young story.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I go way back as well.
There, you know, Kevin McFall, not to be confused with Kevin McSwain, but
Right.
you know, the Kevin Mack are running
Right.
things here. But John Young and I met actually through Rick Lenore,
Okay.
because I and Rick and Gary Wallace and Larry Thompson, we were all starting a hip hop label. They were part of this crew, Mirage Entertainment, which had massive distribution of about 5 house music labels, and we wanted to diversify. And so Funky Ride Recordings was our label that was going to focus on releasing hip hop acts. And the first act signed to Funky Ride Recordings was a group called Fruit of the Mind.
Fruit of the Mind.
Fruit of the Mind, with DJ John Young and Wood Harris, the actor now, actor, rapper, poet, Wood Harris.
Wow.
And these guys were so hot, but of course they had sampled some pretty prominent artists in their hit EP, and it was hard as hell for us to get those samples cleared. But the Fruit of the Mind EP, I still have it, waiting for it to drop any year now.
Okay, so but wait a minute. There were so many name drops in that John Young, intro. First of all, Prosser. We sort of pride ourselves on giving, the high schools as much love as possible. And I don't know if we've had any other. What other sort of DJs came out of Prosser that we would know?
Well, on the local level, I mean, there's DJ Gilroy, DJ Lookout, uh, DJ Roman, DJ Martin Vasquez. So it was kind of with our Latino brothers and our Black brothers, it was probably 50 DJs coming out of the Prosser camp. So we used to do a lot of parties at Prosser, at Weber High School, the up north schools, Schurz, things like that as well.
Wow. So what we like doing is, sometimes we get a random high school that we've, no one ever has said before. And so I feel like Prosser might be one of those I haven't heard much from. Yeah, so that's cool. So we'll pop out Carlos Myers. Carlos Myers, I have known for at least 15 years. I know his mother extremely well. They're a big real estate family in Chicago, did some really wonderful projects. And out of nowhere, I get some music from Carlos Myers. I'm like, what is Carlos Myers sending me some music for? Then I'm in the chat and everyone's chit-chatting with Carlos. Like, Carlos know all the people. How does Carlos know these people? How come I don't know that you spin? And it's just amazing, like some of the things that, I felt like what I heard from you was really fantastic. And I would love to wanted to find a way to get you on in some capacity. And then here we are. Carlos, tell us a little bit about your beginnings, your origin story, high school, etc., and then how you ended up in, loving house music.
You got to let me preempt that story with, you got to throw in the DJ Loso. You didn't get music from Carlos.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
DJ.
You got it from
You're right.
Loso.
My bad.
So Carlos was doing something else. No, I really appreciate the opportunity, to come on and even talk about just my musical background and my journey in the whole house music genre. I started DJing in about 82. As a hobby, I was excited about the music. We were going to parties in Mendel and sneaking out to the playground and all those other places. And I just couldn't stop. Buying records with every dollar I could find, was buying mix match turntables, and had one belt drive turntable, one direct drive turntable, and no mixer, like Kevin said. We just were doing what we had to do until we were able to, get more and more equipment and really put together a sound and a style. Went to Kenwood Academy, and that's where I really kind of found the real deep connection to house music. It was there I met a lot of my friends that I still have to this day, a lot of my network in the house music lifestyle. We started going to the Power Plant. That was like the Power Plant Music Box was my intro to the underground scene. And I think that's one of the things, kind of what you're talking about, Laura, that's missing in terms of that connectivity of bridging the gap and bringing in newer talent and newer people into the whole body of house music is that club element, the underground element, where the younger people who were actually underage at the time, most of us were able to go and witness and experience, these phenomenal DJ gods, Frankie Knuckles and Ron Hardy, several nights out the week, and it was an experience, and not just them though, but like the DJs at Mendel were killing it back in the day. I mean, they really built, my love for an intro and ear for the music. That's where we first heard all the jams and first, got the feeling and the dances down, and went from there until we actually got into the clubs. And from the club scene, it was over. I couldn't stop after that. And so, DJ'd with a group throughout Kenwood. It was several DJs that were back there. Terrell and some other folks that I was in class with. We all spun parties at school, but it was the older guys that kind of had that on lock. Ricky Lenore and all of them, they were all doing guest special appearances at the school, so it was hard, for the freshmen and the sophomores to get a spot. We had to do opening and carry the records and all that kind of stuff, and carry the speakers, which were huge and heavy at the time.
Right.
But it went from there. DJ some when I was in college. I went to Northern and then to Columbia after that. Came back, did some residencies at some Southside clubs. I was the DJ at Mr. G's when that club first opened for several years. And there I got a real diverse DJ experience because, it wasn't a nightclub, it was a supper club. So you would have anything from an 80th anniversary to a 21-year-old birthday party. But everybody always loved when we were able to break into a house music set. And so I always had the thrill of being able to deliver a good solid house set. And have gone on through the years. And then I suddenly retired from doing music, started having children and raising a family. And like you said, doing the real estate thing real heavy. And just, I don't know. The music, the scene wasn't there for me anymore. The clubs weren't really calling me like that. And it just seemed like what I had loved so much about it just kind of wasn't there. And then even in like me, the music, I just didn't have a feeling for it. And the last maybe 4 years ago, got back in touch with Mike Winston, and then him and Albert Phillips were the two people who got me to start coming out again. I was going to a couple of parties, Rhonda Flowers parties, and she's someone I went to Kenwood with as well, and used to hang out with her the whole time I was there. But started coming back out occasionally, and just hearing them spin and hearing the new music that they were spinning, and it just ignited something again in me. And listening to their sets and breaking away from the nostalgia and the old house music stuff, and feeling some of this new music that I had absolutely no idea who made it or what the songs were. So I had to start building a new foundation for music and new collection, and finding out where they were buying the music, since nobody had record stores, imports, etc. wasn't open anymore, and that kind of stuff. And, to start acquiring music, and then looking at the new technology, because, we grew up on turntables and, mixers and that kind of stuff. So to deal with now using a controller and a computer was a new art for me. So it took me about a year and a half before I felt comfortable with the equipment enough to, get back out there. And I've relocated to Atlanta, where I'm at now, and started doing a couple of house music sets around here. And it started picking up and was really building, and we started, really enjoying it. And then COVID hit. I think the last party we did was January 17th of 2020. And it was supposed to be our 2020 kickoff for a whole series of stuff we were going to do. And boom, everything was over after that. So
Atlanta is such a great market for house music as well. So it sounds like you've been able, though, to plug into the Atlanta scene, albeit COVID hit.
Yeah, especially I've been tied in with Miko down here. He's Mr. Everything everywhere down here. So, Miko has made sure that I've connected and met everybody via Skype or via FaceTime. He's like, hey, this dude, him? And so it's been fun. It's been really exciting for me to get back into the music. And that's why I started sharing, because I remember I used to love the fact of being able to get a cassette. If this DJ, or especially if you were lucky enough to get a first copy of a Frankie Knuckles or a first copy of a Ron Hardy, and he hands it to you over the booth after you've been sitting there watching them for the last 5 months.
Magical moments, right?
Oh man, it's indescribable. But
so we have a segment, or at least a question we ask, and we get into a little bit of discussion on From Show to Show. we say who's got next for the Vintage House Show. And it sounds like your man Miko would be a good candidate.
Oh, absolutely. That dude, I mean, he knows all the music, knows all the people, knows where all the bodies are buried, just everything. It's like it's a history lesson. Even when he was over at the house earlier today, just playing music and just talking and listening to him, and so he excited me all over again. It's just he's really exciting when it comes to house music.
Hopefully he's tuned in tonight and know that he's got next. You're gonna be responsible for making that happen. All right, Carlos.
Gotta bring him on. He also had a few other name drops in there. We got some Mike Winston, certainly a very good friend of the show, and Elbert, who I don't know if he's been on or not. But so John, quickly tell me, you are doing, you are spinning all over the country now. How did you get so connected, over the last 20 years or so to be sort of the top DJ for these cruises and events, etc.? How did that happen?
Well, just networking with people. Not only do I play house, but I play hip hop, R&B, jazz. So I think it's very important as a DJ to be diverse. So with that diversity, opened up plenty of avenues for me. So not only was I DJing in clubs when I was growing up, but then I started doing high schools and grammar schools and colleges, and then eventually got into corporate events, weddings, even did some stuff for Northwestern, Lori. Thank you. And some corporate events with you. So just networking with different, people of all ages, all backgrounds. And that was kind of the launch with me able to, do some cruises, do some weddings, destination weddings, which I love, and kind of traveling with various, sororities or fraternities, and just trying to, build from there.
Talk to us about Club Shelter. What made you create Club Shelter? We know it's certainly pandemic, but some people just didn't do anything. You just immediately were like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah, there was a lot of, a lot of DJs doing, some things online. And I'm trying to think of D Nice. Obviously, he was the first one who kind of kicked it off. And then I saw some Chicago DJs doing some online things as well. And that's right around the end of March, when things, was really shut down. So I was talking to my wife and we were trying to come up with names. And I was saying, well, since we're sheltered in place and there was already a club back in the, I believe, 80s and 90s called Club Shelter, I said, well, since we're sheltered in place, I'll name my genre, Club Shelter. And it just kind of went from there. So I have a page on Facebook where I DJ every week. Primarily now is Tuesdays around 6 or 7 Central Standard Time, where I'm playing house, hip hop, R&B. So you can check out the Club Shelter page on Facebook. Check me out live every Tuesday, or go to Twitch, twitch.tv/DJ John Young to catch me on there as well.
Well, I can't believe I didn't start off the conversation with your wife, my soror and friend, Stacy Young. So love to Stacy and your daughter, who is probably a foot taller than me now. Right. Give love to her as well. So good. You have so much support.
Yeah, and actually I have my daughter. She's the MC for Club Shelter. So she kind of introduces me before I come in, sort of like, Johnny Carson used to have the MC. So my daughter, a 13-year-old daughter, she's the MC now. So she enjoys it. She gets a lot of recognition from it. And, I love her helping me out with it.
Talk about passing the torch, right? That's
so, John, you also, before Club Shelter kicked off, you did a live event. I don't know if it was the last one for you before we went into shelter in place, but March 9th, the original 40 Club of Chicago. Thanks again.
Right.
Oh.
After party that you threw down.
Yeah.
Royally.
I was there. Did I see you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
you may have left.
Yep, I think I left.
Lauren some ginkgo biloba.
Please don't play. That's very serious, man. That is not a joke. I need all of that.
I saw you, and John was in the back room there, getting ready for the after party.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I
now.
think you may have left before the after party, so
Yeah.
you're off the hook.
I think I did.
And that was a a great event, Kevin. So thank you for hooking me up with that. And I was looking forward to having the 2020 Original 40 Club party, but unfortunately, COVID hit us. So so hopefully in the near future we can do something once this all dies down.
You're on.
Yeah, I will also make sure that folks know that our other co-host is also a friend to the show, a friend to WNUR, Hannah Vitti. Her DJ name is Vitti Girl. She's also a Northwestern graduate in sort of sound engineering. She is a Chicagoan, a North Sider, who is, one of those young superstars that has really been spinning, she spins everything, but really sort of a dance music foundation. She is a historian, and she's also into the future of house music. She knows gospel house. She can throw down anything. And this summer she was, all over the place. She was going to be. She was, Navy Pier, Queens of House, Smart Bar. Here she was spinning all over the city. Got a great spread in the Tribune, and she will be the co-host with Justin, bringing in DJs from all over who need some shine. And we really look forward to having her. She will be the host and our first guest as one of the young DJs on next week. So it starts next week on the 6th. And right after the show, it's Kevin's show next week. Who's on your show this next week, Kevin?
Next week's show, drum roll. I'll let you know before the end of this show. How about that?
Well, yeah, I didn't want us to.
Big surprise.
So, I feel like we've got some great co-hosts, who will bring some interesting conversation to this. It's going to be a 30-minute really dance party where, we're going to introduce the co-hosts at the end of every show, sort of 5 minutes into the end of every show. We're going to bring the co-hosts up. They're going to talk a little bit about the guest, and then bring on the mixing. In the mix, the DJ will tell a little bit about themselves, and then we're just going to be looking for personality and the sounds and just really enjoying the music. One of the things that I really miss about not being in the studio, just the music was always sort of the highlight to me, to every show. So this will be a lot of fun. And we will invite people to, make suggestions to who should be put into the spotlight. And we just really look forward to having a heck of a lot of fun. And Carlos, coming in from Atlanta, I mean, we're looking for some Atlanta folks, some global folks who might want to be put on. Do you have some other sort of DJs there who you think would, appreciate, some of the exposure?
Oh, absolutely. I've had the pleasure of hearing and meeting some outstanding house music DJs. I mean, I had to turn over my decks to a couple of them and let them just do their thing at a couple of the parties because they were getting down. So yeah, we have some phenomenal DJs, especially even some female DJs out here. I have a cousin named DJ Lovelock. She's out here. She can get down. So I love hearing her spin. Her style is real original to me. She does some things with the controller and with the CDJs that I'm definitely not experienced on doing, and I like watching her spin and hearing her music. But you got some more veteran DJs out here. You got DJ Raphael is out here out of Chicago, real big house music and stepper DJ. And that was one of the things I think about the DJs coming back up in our era too. We were diverse. I mean, we fell in love with the oldies. We fell in love with the house music. We were there for the beginning of hip hop. So we were part of so many different musical styles and love for different musics that we, were diverse as DJs.
I think that is really so important, honestly. I think when I listened to VD Girl, and again, one of the highlights to listening to her was that we would come into the studio a little early. She had the show right before us. And almost every week, she'd be playing a new sort of genre of house or new genre of old school. She'd always be mixing something really unique, something very surprising. And I think that's so important, like you were saying, John. I mean, you have to be diverse if you're going to make it as a career in this industry. We love house music, and of course, our goal is always to bring more light to house music and its global reach. But understanding all the different genres of Black music for sure is important in sustainability, as I see it. But I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. John, do you have any young or old folks? Do you think that you might want to put in our direction as well?
Well, I think there were already a couple people that you guys had on the show already, but I'm sure there are, DJs that I've connected with just through the pandemic that I can definitely, recommend. I'll talk to them and see if they're, I've listened to some of their sets. There, a lot of great DJs out there. So definitely be a platform that, that they will want to be showcased on.
That's fantastic.
What makes, besides the diversity and versatility, what, in your opinion, and I'm going to ask Justin to lead us off on this conversation, but what do you think makes a great DJ, Justin?
Personality and understanding your audience, pretty much. I mean, I'm not a DJ, but I've been to enough events. I've been into enough clubs, and what keeps like the event or whatever it is lively is someone who has like personality and who can like kind of relate to the audience. Like look out into the audience and see, like, okay, these people are loving this. I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to transition well within my songs. I'm going to I'm learning as I'm like spinning my set, kind of that type of thing. Because like, in certain like experiences like the club, like there's just open to any and everybody that comes there. So like you can't really please everyone, but you can look into your audience and see what's making them like get hyped or whatever, like turn up, and you can keep that going throughout your entire set. Then that's something that makes me want to at least be like, I need to know when this DJ is spinning so I can come back again, whatever night, whichever day. Like I've had a couple of experiences like that throughout college. I've had a couple of experiences like that throughout like just Chicago or whatnot after college and moving back here. And those experiences are the best experiences. Like if I go through my gallery, there's a night full of videos of me just like listen to how he transitions to this, and I'm just like, me and my friends are just like loving it. So if a DJ can like see their audience and know what's like getting them like turned up or whatever, I think that's great.
Definitely love that. Particularly your description of a DJ really learning from their audience as they go along. Now, of course, during the pandemic, we've been hosting virtual audience sessions, but you can still learn through comments and emoticons, emojis, how people are really responding to the music. What about you, Carlos, DJ Loso? What do you think?
I agree a lot with it, with what Justin said, but DJing has kind of changed over the years. It's gone from an involvement thing where you were really monitoring how the dance floor was reacting, and you had to pace the dance floor, to a spectator sport where everybody's just looking at you holding up a phone and recording you. So it's kind of, you become a different level of performer. So I think as now, there's a lot of performance and a lot more conscientiousness of self-awareness that you have to put into the art of becoming a DJ. It's more personality driven, as like Justin was saying, than it was before, where it was how cold you were, skill set on the musical side, and how your library and your collection was, and who had the most exclusive edits and that sort of stuff, which still means something. And but it's a different game now, for sure, in terms of how to become that great DJ and how to get that recognition and that sort of stuff. So it's real personality driven.
John Young, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Carlos and Justin. I mean, it is a more personality driven. Maybe back in the day when I grew up, it was more about the music and if you can blend the records or not. More so now, a lot of DJs are just, cutting in the songs, and that's great, if that fits their audience, but there still needs to be, a bare bones level. You have two turntables or a controller or whatever you're using. Can you mesh those records together? Do they sound good together coming from one record to the other record, transitioning? How does that sound? Does that make you stop and look at the DJ booth and say, what are you doing? Or does that get you hyped and say, I like that blend? Even people who don't know about DJing or know about, the ins and outs of it, they can tell a good DJ or not because it sounds good. There's a continuous flow without the hills. It's a continuous flow that makes a great DJ.
From the comments, Craig Loftus, the Grand High Priest, says, never lose sight of what it will always be about, which is the dance floor. No matter what you're seeing now, it's always about the dance floor. I think personality has a lot to do with it too. Lauren?
I think you're right. I mean, I think personality, but now it is a different ball game. And I'm going to encourage you all to take a look at Questlove Supreme's podcast. He interviewed Deon Cole. Deon Cole, of course, from Chicago, an actor, gave a lot of love to Chicago, some history. He's now a new DJ. He said he had his equipment for. He says he only had his equipment for 3 years. He just started spinning in March or April. And now he's the hype. Right now he did the Chosen Few picnic. So he admitted on there. He admitted on he says, look, I just started. And they were like, what? They were all like taken aback, right? Because there's a seasoned DJs in there. And, he's got, thousands of followers and thousands of people checking out his sets. But it's about his personality as well, his love for the music. He's a Chicagoan, so he loves the music. And I think all of us can create an audience. Now, we're all not on 3 major television shows that are, national in Chicago. But, D Nice was also, sort of a top of the line DJ. He spun at the White House, but he didn't have the millions of followers that he has now. And he's just done that using house music using that, sort of the pandemic as the vehicle to bringing, music to people. I think when you're organic like that and you just have a personality, you love the music, you never know what's going to happen. It certainly changed his career and his trajectory, sort of in COVID. John, how do you see, tell me your thoughts about, your Club Shelter. What have you seen? Have you seen, sort of unique audiences and your audience grow by doing the sets over the social media?
Yeah, most definitely. And actually, this was something that I was thinking about doing prior to COVID. I was thinking about having live sets, starting in 2020, but COVID just stepped up my game. I had maybe 1,900 friends. Now I'm at a little over 2,000. So I've increased, twofold, my audience. And so my audience is kind of the same age range, maybe the 35 to 60 age range. Chicagoans primarily love house music. So that's why I kind of give them, every week. However, with my company, Jam Music, we do a lot of proms and weddings. So not only I want to take care of my house crowd, but we play, the gutter hip hop, trap music, Loso, I'm sure knows about the trap in Atlanta. So, my company, we play trap as well. We may have a Trap Tuesday, so we just, going back to that whole diversity, versatile objectivity of it.
Got it. I think Craig's got some interesting comments coming up, but I think about, again, how are we increasing our audiences? I mean, to young people, and this is what it's about. I think learning from their styles and what they're listening to, I think it's so important for us to continue to keep, house and dance music diverse, learning from others, learning from young people. There's always people, they can learn from older adults and older DJs and mature DJs, and we can learn from them as well. I mean, Carlos, have you seen a lot of mentoring going on sort of from your vantage point? Have you seen a lot of that?
I was fortunate, again, to be mentored by Mike Wilson and Mike Winston, and then to be able to watch right over the ledge of Craig and Frankie and Ronnie. So, that's how that was, I guess, our version of YouTube, was to be able to see it live back in the day and learn. But I don't see a lot of connectivity with DJs passing the torch, or, having a crew and some younger. I don't see the opportunities there for younger people to connect with it or engage in the art.
That's an interesting point, because I would say I learned how and was inspired by watching other DJs, by standing next to the DJ booth, the table, whatever it was, and observing. And usually I was very welcome, right? There have been instances where, you got a 6-foot fence or something around the DJ booth these days. But back in the day, the ability to stand adjacent to the DJ and to look at the label, right, of the 12-inch, I'm dating myself, but to be able to read that label, or even ask the DJ spinning, what the song was, and making a mental note about, either the musical key that the song was, or the, song that was blended with it coming in. The other big influence for me was WBMX. What I really missed is the hot mix, right? The hot mix really, I thought, made the craft of DJing very interesting, very innovative, very intriguing, right? It wasn't, I get why it was sort of diminished, and it was more of a radio format. Certainly in clubs or live venues performing, hot mixing could be somewhat disruptive to the dance floor experience. But the creativity associated with double tracking, or, flanging the records, having to have 2 copies, right, of a record, as opposed to being able to just put that digital copy on, or using effects from your mixer controller. These things were the skilled craft that I think really gave birth to a lot of the DJs that we talk about as the pioneers, but they've moved away from some of those techniques and activities.
And you brought up BMX, Kevin, and WBMX, and that was real important, not just for the aspect of the DJ, but also the audience, the dancers, and the younger people who were being exposed to the music. And that's also, something I think is very important that we got to get back to, is exposing the next generation to the music. And that's kind of one of the things that I like being able to do with the mixes that I've put together. I send them out. I've got some younger folks, my sons and their friends, and they all are commenting about the mixes and asking me when I'm gonna do the next one. And I send them, and I try to incorporate newer music and different things that get them to bite onto it and want to explore more about it. And I combine it with some of the older songs and the history stuff, and they're really going for it. But I mean, I think BMX was important to get a widespread, audience and keep younger people engaged, because the hot mix was everybody's.
That's
Right.
So true.
Yeah, I remember staying up late at night on, Saturday night, 15, 16 years old, waiting for Farley to come on, waiting for, Mickey Mix and Oliver to come on, Julian Perez to come on, had the cassette deck ready, to hit record and try to find those songs. I think that's what we're, kind of the disconnect between our generation and the newer generation, because we had to listen to the record, try to go to the record store and try to find the record, dig through the crates, buy the record. But there was a process. There was a 4 or 5 step process in order to get one record. If you didn't know the record, you had to try to go to the club. You were too young to get in the club, and ask your friend to what's the name of that song, then go to the record store, then try to save up for it. But now music is so available, which is a great thing, but that those levels, that reachability is gone now. Now
it makes it more disposable now.
Yeah, it makes it more disposable. You can just grab it and throw it away, as opposed to records here that I still have that I'm not getting rid of, that I missed a lot of lunches for.
No, this is a huge point. You talk about process, and technology really took a lot of the process away, which is, part and parcel to the purpose of technology, to streamline, to make things more efficient. And so with that taken out, though, I think it leaves room to introduce more creativity, right? If you don't have to do your crate digging, or you can just Shazam that song that you heard in somebody else's mix, right? That should give you more time to do more, to be creative or educate or whatever it is. There's some gap to be filled there,
right? Is
my opinion.
Yeah, it's just a different process now. It's just a different process.
Still digging through all those files. Oftentimes.
Right. Alphabetical order on your survival list.
That's true. Well, guys, 2021 is going to be fantastic. We're really looking forward to this new aspect of the show and keeping the show fresh and bright. As we close, I want to just, Kevin and I, again, want to say to tell Lori Branch that we love her and we love her family, and we're praying for her. And we look forward to, she continues to mentor people, including Hannah Vitti, who we found her and immediately started mentoring. But again, she taught us quite a bit as well. I mean, it was certainly a transfer of information.
Shout out to Vitti girl.
Shout out to Vitti girl. Her birthday was yesterday or day before yesterday, and I think she's going to spend some time with Lori. But and again, love to Justin Alphonse. Thank you so much for your insight in the small amount of time that we've been working together. You've really brought a lot of interesting ideas to the table, and we just really look forward to your contribution to the spotlight. And of course, as always, Kevin McFall is just a joy to work with, and I've just been blessed to have gotten to know you and your work as a pioneer in house music. I've learned so much from you. You bring so much to the table.
She used to hire me as a DJ for P&G Productions. After Barry, I was the DJ that came after Barry. You forget that.
Right. Well, see, thank God you're so much more than just the DJ. You know what I mean? We need to have a whole Kevin McFall sort of discussion, just to go back on all the artifacts, etc. But John, I don't want to hear from you either, because we get all these. All of a sudden, again, why am I seeing John Young's name on Pluggers? This is amazing. So like, there's so much work to be done. There's so much history to be learned in house music and for us to share. And we look forward to doing that more in 2021 in new and unique ways. Lori Branch has got some unbelievable guests coming up, international guests. We're really taking it to the next level this year, so stay tuned. Kev, what's the word for next week?
So kicking off our 2021 Vintage House Show series will be an exclusive opportunity that only the Vintage House crew could assemble. But we are bringing together the production team known as Hula and Fingers, who produced Will Smith and yes, give it up for Hula and Fingers. They'll be here next week with a special reunion. They haven't been together for a long time as a production team, but they produce Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince's Grammy Award-winning "Summertime" song. I was their publicist at that time, and I was so mad when Will and Jazzy Jeff won the Grammy. They did not give a shout out to their producers, but we'll get into that and what they did produce at incredible levels of the house music scene next week. Clubhouse Records, Hula and Fingers, the reunion, kicking off our 2021 series.
It's going to be awesome. Gentlemen, thank you all so much for being on the show. Have a great new year. And we just look forward to having you all on. John Young will be on, I believe, on the 13th, right after the video. She's our first mature DJ. So I can't wait to see what you're going to do on the decks. It's going to be so fun. Gonna dig it. The whole West Side will be in a full effect.
Very good. Vintage House Spotlight coming to you right after the Vintage House Show. 9 o'clock Vintage House, 10 o'clock for Vintage House Spotlight.
Central Standard Time.
Central Standard Time. Yes, thank you.
Thanks for that, John. And thanks everyone for tuning in once again. We are the Vintage House Show. We are powered by the Modern Dance Music and Research Archiving Foundation. Follow us on Instagram at Vintage House. Follow us or like our page on Facebook. You're probably doing that now, and you can certainly tune in at various other profiles on social media, including YouTube,
Our podcast,
the DJchannel.com, all spelled out, and on Twitch. I am DJ Mega, and this has been another episode of the Vintage House Show. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Carlos. Thank
Love
you,
you all.
Justin. And we are out. Good night.
Cool. Thanks,
Good night.
guys. We'll be in touch. I'll touch base with